The silent Leviathan's commander Zilkstar studied the holographic display with growing confusion. His elongated cranium, typical of the Zephyrian species, tilted as he processed the sensor data. The 6 ships of his exploration fleet hung in space. At the edge of an unremarkable star system, their sleek forms dwarfed by what lay ahead. Commander, Science Officer Kellenix approached, her forearms gesturing toward the massive objects detected on their long-range scanners. The initial survey is complete. What we're seeing defies conventional understanding. Zilkstar's compound eyes focused on the readings. Scattered throughout the outer system were enormous metallic objects, each one several kilometers in length. At first glance, they appeared to be unusually large asteroids, perhaps remnants of a shattered world. But the sensor data told a different story. These structures, Kellenix continued, her voice filled with scientific curiosity, they're artificial, constructed, and Commander, they're massive beyond anything in our databases. The bridge crew of the exploration vessel Quantum Wind fell silent as the implications settled. Zilkstar had spent 3 decades exploring the galaxy's outer reaches, cataloging new worlds and species for the Zephyrian Republic. He had encountered many technological marvels, but nothing prepared him for this discovery. How massive? Zilkstar asked, though he suspected the answer would challenge his understanding of engineering possibilities. Kellenix manipulated the holographic display, highlighting one of the objects. The scale markers appeared, and the bridge crew gasped collectively. The single structure measured over 15 kilometers in length, 8 kilometers wide, and 4 kilometers thick. It was larger than most Zephyrian cities. By the 7 moons, whispered Navigation Officer Thexul from his station. That's bigger than our entire fleet combined. Zilkstar's mandibles clicked nervously, a sign of deep concern among his species. The Zephyrian Republic possessed some of the most advanced technology in their region of the galaxy. Their largest vessels barely reached 2 kilometers in length, and those were massive undertakings requiring the resources of entire star systems. There are 7 of them, Kellenix reported, updating the display to show all the detected objects. All similar in size, all positioned strategically throughout the outer system. They appear to be dormant, showing minimal energy signatures. The commander studied each structure carefully. Despite their enormous size, they possessed an elegance that spoke of advanced engineering. The surfaces were smooth and purposeful, with no wasted space or decorative elements. Everything about their design suggested function over form, efficiency over display. What species could construct vessels of this magnitude? Tactical Officer Vexron asked from his position. His species, the Kelari, were known for their military prowess, but even their greatest warships seemed like toys compared to these giants. Unknown, Kellenix replied, consulting her instruments. The construction materials are sophisticated, but the design philosophy is unlike anything in our cultural databases. The power systems appear to be completely offline, but the infrastructure suggests capabilities we can barely comprehend. Zilkstar made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. We investigate, prepare the reconnaissance shuttle. If these vessels belong to a spacefaring civilization, we need to understand their capabilities and intentions. Commander, Vexron interjected, his warrior instincts alert. Approaching unknown vessels of this size could be extremely dangerous. We don't know if they're automated defense platforms or colony ships or something else entirely. Witches? Exactly why we need to investigate, Zilkstar replied firmly. Kellenix, you'll lead the reconnaissance team. Take a full sensor array and maintain constant communication with the fleet. As the shuttle prepared for launch, word of the discovery spread through the Zephyrian fleet. The crew members gathered at observation ports, staring in wonder and apprehension at the massive structures floating silently in the void. The reconnaissance shuttle, Stellar probe launched from the exploration vessel's bay, its small form barely visible against the backdrop of space. Kallenix piloted the craft personally, her scientific training overriding any fear she might have felt as they approached the nearest structure. The scale became even more overwhelming. The shuttle could have fit inside the vessel's smallest. External features dozens of times over. The hull showed signs of incredible sophistication, with sections that seemed to shift and adapt based on unknown criteria. "Commander," Kallenix transmitted back to the fleet, "I'm detecting compartmentalization on a scale I've never seen. This single vessel appears to contain multiple ecosystems, manufacturing facilities, and what might be entire cities." Through the shuttle's viewports, she could see the vessel's surface in detail. It wasn't the smooth metal she had expected, but rather a complex arrangement of interconnected sections, each serving specific purposes. Gardens were visible through transparent sections, suggesting this was more than a military vessel. "It's not a warship," she reported with growing amazement. "Commander, I believe this is a colony vessel. A self-contained world designed for long-term space travel." The implications hit the Zephyrian fleet like a shockwave. To build colony vessels of this size suggested a civilization with resources and technological capabilities far beyond their own. More concerning was the question of where these vessels had come from and where they were going. "Kallenix, can you determine the vessel's origin?" Zilkstar asked, his voice tight with concern. "Working on it, Commander. The construction techniques are unfamiliar, but there are markings, symbols that might indicate." She paused as her instruments detected something new. "Commander, I'm picking up energy fluctuations from within the vessel." Before anyone could respond, lights began appearing along the massive hull. Not the harsh illumination of military systems powering up, but gentle, steady lights that suggested habitation areas coming online. "Kallenix, retreat immediately," Zilkstar ordered, but it was too late. The reconnaissance shuttle had triggered proximity sensors that had been dormant for months. Deep within the massive vessel, automated systems began the process of awakening. The crew from their long sleep. The hibernation chambers that housed thousands of humans slowly began their revival sequences. Admiral Sarah Chan felt consciousness return gradually, as it always did after extended hibernation. The gentle hum of life support systems and the soft lighting of the hibernation bay welcomed her back to wakefulness. Her body felt stiff but functional as the medical systems completed their revival protocols. "Admiral," came the voice of her AI assistant, Aria, through the chamber's speakers. "Revival complete. All systems nominal. We have visitors." Chan's eyes opened fully, focusing on the status displays around her chamber. The hibernation bay stretched out before her, containing thousands of similar chambers, most still occupied by sleeping colonists. "Visitors?" she asked, her voice slightly hoarse from the long sleep. "Unknown vessels detected at system perimeter," Aria reported. "Their approach triggered our proximity protocols. Initial scans suggest they're exploratory in nature, not military." Chan stood slowly, allowing her body to adjust to normal gravity after months in suspension. She was a tall woman with graying hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. At 62, she had led 3 successful colony expeditions, but this mission was different. This was humanity's first venture into truly unknown space. "How long were we out?" she asked, moving to the command console. 14 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, Aria replied with typical AI precision. "We're in the target system, outer orbital zone. All 7 colony ships are present and accounted for." Through the chamber's viewing port, Chun could see the small alien shuttle maintaining a cautious distance from their vessel. The New Horizon was the flagship of humanity's largest colonial expedition, designed to establish permanent settlements in unexplored regions of the galaxy. "What do we know about our visitors?" Chon asked, reviewing the incoming data. "Preliminary scans suggest a technologically advanced species, but their vessels are significantly smaller than our own. They seem surprised by our presence and our scale." Chun wasn't surprised by this reaction. The human colony ships represented the pinnacle of Earth's engineering capabilities. Each vessel was designed to transport 50,000 colonists, along with everything needed to establish a thriving civilization on new worlds. They were massive because they had to be comprehensive. "Admiral," came another voice as Captain Marcus Torres entered the hibernation bay. Torres was Chun's second-in-command, a skilled pilot and diplomat who had been awakened along with the essential crew. "The alien vessel is attempting to communicate. What's their approach?" Chun asked, moving toward the bridge. "Cautious but curious," Torres replied, falling into step beside her. "Their communication attempts seem peaceful, but there's definitely concern in their transmissions." As they entered the bridge of the new horizon, Chun was struck by the familiar sense of purpose that came with command. The bridge was spacious but efficient, designed for both comfort during long voyages and effectiveness during critical operations. "Admiral on the bridge," called out Communications Officer Lisa Park, a young woman whose linguistic talents had made her invaluable for first contact scenarios. "What's our status with the alien vessel?" Chun asked, settling into the command. "Chair, they're maintaining distance but haven't fled," Park reported. "I'm detecting multiple ships in their fleet, all significantly smaller than our vessels. Their communication attempts are in multiple frequencies, suggesting they're trying to establish peaceful contact." Through the main view screen, Shun could see the alien shuttle, a sleek vessel that looked almost delicate compared to the massive bulk of the human colony ships. She felt a familiar mixture of excitement and caution that came with first contact. "Situations. Open a channel," she ordered. "Let's see if we can establish communication." As the communication systems activated, Chon reflected on humanity's journey to this moment. The colony ships represented decades of planning, construction, and hope. They carried not just people, but the collective dreams of a species reaching for the stars. The 7 vessels of the colonial fleet floated silently in space, their massive forms slowly coming to full operational status. Gardens visible through transparent sections began to show signs of life as automated systems prepared for potential planetary settlement. Manufacturing bays stood ready to produce everything from basic tools to advanced technology. Living quarters designed for long-term habitation-housed families. Scientists, engineers, and artists thought these were not warships, despite their impressive size and capabilities. They were arks, carrying the best of human civilization to new worlds. Each vessel was essentially a mobile city, complete with everything needed to establish permanent settlements. But to the watching Zephyrians, the sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. These massive structures represented technological capabilities they could barely comprehend, built by a species they knew nothing about. Asterisk, when the Leviathans stir, the bridge of the quantum wind buzzed with nervous energy as Commander Zilkstar watched the massive human vessels complete their awakening sequence. What had been silent metal giants were now clearly inhabited structures, their surfaces alive with activity and purpose. "Commander," Tactical Officer Vex Ron reported, his voice tense with concern. "The alien vessels are fully operational. Power readings are off our scales. If these are weapons platforms, ... "They're not," Science Officer Kellenix interrupted, her sensors providing new data by the moment. "Commander, what I'm seeing changes everything. These aren't military vessels. They're sophisticated colony ships, but on a scale that defies our understanding of resource allocation." Through the main view screen, the Zephyrian crew watched as sections of the nearest human vessel transformed before their eyes. What had appeared to be solid hull plating retracted to reveal vast agricultural areas, their growing facilities clearly visible through transparent barriers. Other sections showed manufacturing centers, residential areas, and what appeared to be educational facilities. "By the 7 moons," whispered Navigation Officer Thexul. "It's an entire civilization in space." Commander Zilkstar felt his preconceptions crumbling. The Zephyrian Republic had always prided itself on technological advancement, but these human vessels represented a completely different approach to space colonization. Where Zephyrian ships were efficient and compact, human vessels were comprehensive and massive. Commander. Communications Officer Drulix announced, "We're receiving a transmission from the largest vessel. It's in multiple languages and mathematical concepts. They're attempting peaceful contact." "Put it through," Zilkstar ordered, steeling himself for humanity's first words. The voice that came through the speakers was calm and professional, with undertones of curiosity rather than hostility. "Unknown vessels, this is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Colonial Fleet New Horizon. We are explorers and settlers from the planet Earth, currently in transit to establish new colonies. We mean no harm and request peaceful dialogue." The bridge fell, silent as the implications sank in. These massive vessels belonged to colonists, not conquerors. The sheer scale of their operation suggested resources and organizational capabilities that dwarfed anything in Zephyrian experience. "Respond," Zilkstar ordered after a moment of consideration. "Open channel." "Admiral Chun," he began, his voice formal but respectful. "I am Commander Zilkstar of the Zephyrian Republic Exploration Fleet. We encountered your vessels during a routine survey mission. Your ships are impressive in scale." Through the view screen, they could see activity increasing. Aboard the human vessels, smaller craft began launching from bays that could have housed entire Zephyrian ships. But these weren't fighters or military vessels. They appeared to be service craft, maintenance vehicles, and what looked like agricultural transports. "Commander." "Zilkstar," Admiral Chun's voice returned. "We appreciate your peaceful approach. Would you be willing to engage in formal first contact protocols? We have extensive experience with initial species encounters and would welcome the opportunity for cultural exchange." Science Officer Kellenix looked up from her instruments with amazement. "Commander, their smallest support vessels are larger than our primary exploration ships. The energy output from their main vessels could power our entire fleet for decades." The reality of humanity's technological capabilities was becoming clear to the Zephyrian crew. These weren't primitive beings compensating for limited technology with brute size. These were advanced engineers who had solved the fundamental problems of space colonization through comprehensive design rather than miniaturization. "Admiral Chun," Zilkstar responded, "we would be honored to engage in formal contact. However, I must admit your vessels are unlike anything in our experience. The scale of your operation suggests capabilities we find difficult to comprehend." A new voice joined the communication, identified as Captain Marcus Torres. "Commander, we understand your surprise. Our colony ships are designed for comprehensive long-term settlement operations. Each vessel carries everything needed to establish a thriving civilization on new worlds." Through the view screen, the Zephyrians watched as one of the human support vessels approached their position. Even this smaller craft was impressive, clearly designed for multiple functions rather than single-purpose operation. "With your permission," Captain Torres continued, "we'd like to send a diplomatic shuttle to facilitate face-to-face communication. We believe direct contact often leads to better understanding between species." Commander Zilkstar agreed, though he felt increasingly out of his depth. The Zephyrian exploration fleet was designed for survey and initial contact, not comprehensive diplomatic relations with civilizations. whose capabilities far exceeded their own dot as the human diplomatic shuttle approached. Kellynix continued her analysis of the massive colony ships. "Commander," she reported, "I'm detecting organized activity throughout their fleet. They're not just awakening. They're preparing for some kind of major operation." "Settlement operations," came Admiral Chun's voice, having apparently monitored. "Their communications. We're surveying the inner system for suitable colonization sites. Our mission is to establish permanent human settlements in this region of space." The implications struck the Zephyrian crew immediately. If humans were establishing permanent colonies with vessels of this size and capability, they would quickly become a major power in this region of the galaxy. The human diplomatic shuttle docked with the quantum wind using adapter systems that seemed to adjust automatically to Zephyrian specifications. The level of technological sophistication required for such adaptive systems impressed even the experienced exploration crew. Captain Torres emerged from the shuttle, and the Zephyrians got their first look at a human being. He was tall by their standards, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. His manner was confident, but not aggressive, curious rather than threatening. "Commander Zilkstar," Torres said, extending his hand in what the Zephyrians recognized as a greeting gesture. "It's an honor to meet you. Thank you for your peaceful approach to first contact." As the two groups began their formal introductions, Dr. Elena Vasquez, humanity's chief xenobiologist, provided background on human colonization efforts. "Our species has been expanding into space for several centuries," she explained. "These colony ships represent our most advanced effort to establish sustainable settlements in distant regions." "The scale," Kellynix interjected, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. "How do you manage resources for vessels of this magnitude?" Dr. Vasquez smiled. "Comprehensive planning and closed-loop systems. Each colony ship is essentially a mobile biosphere, capable of supporting its population indefinitely while providing everything needed for planetary settlement." Through the diplomatic exchange, the Zephyrians began to understand humanity's approach to space expansion. Rather than establishing small outposts and gradually expanding, humans launched comprehensive missions capable of establishing full civilizations in single operations. "Your technology," Commander Zilkstar observed, "it's different from ours. Not necessarily more advanced, but approached from a completely different perspective." Captain Torres nodded. "Humans tend to favor comprehensive solutions over elegant ones. We build big because we think big. Our colony ships are designed to handle any situation that might arise during settlement operations." As if to demonstrate this point, the view screen showed one of the human vessels beginning atmospheric processing operations on a nearby asteroid. The scale of the operation was staggering, with multiple systems working in coordination to transform raw space rock into useful materials. "Commander," Science Officer Kellynix whispered urgently, "they're not just colonists, they're terraformers. The implications for any species in their expansion path are entirely peaceful," Dr. Vasquez interjected, having overheard the comment. "Human expansion policy strictly prohibits interference with inhabited worlds. We seek empty systems and unused resources, not conflict with established civilizations." The conversation continued for hours, with both species sharing information about their cultures, technologies, and intentions. The Zephyrians learned that Earth was just one of many human worlds, and that humanity's expansion was driven by curiosity and population pressure rather than conquest. "Our fleet represents about 50,000 colonists," Admiral Chun explained during a three-way communication session. "We're looking for suitable worlds to establish permanent settlements. The goal is self-sufficient colonies that can thrive independently while maintaining contact with other human worlds." 50,000, Commander Zilkstar repeated, struggling to process the number. "In 7 vessels. Each colony ship carries complete infrastructure, Captain Torres explained. Manufacturing, agriculture, education, medical facilities, research laboratories, entertainment, arts, everything needed for a complete civilization. As the day progressed, the Zephyrians came to understand that they hadn't encountered a military force or even a simple colonization effort. They had discovered a mobile civilization, complete and self-contained, capable of establishing permanent presence wherever they chose to settle. The final revelation came as Admiral Chun prepared to conclude the formal contact session. Commander Zilkstar, we hope this meeting marks the beginning of positive relations between our species. The galaxy is vast enough for many civilizations to thrive. Admiral, Zilkstar replied, your people's capabilities are impressive, but I must ask, how many such fleets does humanity operate? Admiral Chun's smile was both proud and slightly mysterious. Commander, this is Colonial Fleet 7. We're one of 15 such expeditions currently active in different regions of the galaxy, and these are civilian vessels. Our actual military ships are considerably more impressive. Asterisk, the bridge of the quantum wind fell silent as the implications settled. Humanity wasn't just technologically capable. They were operating on a scale that dwarfed anything the Zephyrian Republic had imagined possible. As the human colony ships resumed their survey operations, preparing to establish humanity's latest outpost among the stars, Commander Zilkstar realized that his routine exploration mission had become something much more significant. They had discovered a species that would reshape the balance of power in their region of the galaxy. But perhaps most importantly, they had learned that this awesome power was guided by peaceful intentions and curiosity rather than conquest and dominion. The humans had shown that great strength could coexist with great wisdom. The galaxy would never be the same.